The recording is welcome everyone to this week's planning and scanning, and everything is being recorded. You guys can download your weekly log sheet. Here we have, starting from the top to the bottom, this is how we're going to start the week. Self-motivational techniques. I found this to be kind of interesting. This is a guy by the name of Jerry Assam. I never heard of him, but he was a businessman and a descendant of the Hawaiian Kings, out of the famous daily positive thought books things that I come across that I believe is important for traders to start focused on the right day, start planning your day, number one, start to put yourself in the right framework, number two. So with that said, if you're not feeling great or you just don't have a good moment, if you can remember, just repeat to yourself, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel terrific. Now for me, I feel healthy. You know, that's a hard one for my subconscious mind to believe. But I think I feel healthy can apply emotionally, mentally, maybe not physically, but maybe spiritually. So healthy, I feel healthy, can be contrived or conceived as in different aspects other than if you have a, say, sore shoulder, sore is an understatement, discomfort back, compressed, what do they call those things? Oh yeah, not compressed, they're called... where they extrude, well, it doesn't matter. But I feel terrific. And it sure beats telling you the opposite. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I'm an idiot. Well, you know, your subconscious mind, you know, you pick up what you say. You are what you eat. You are what you say you are. So don't tell yourself and beat yourself up. That's why even in the beginning of the year, we talked about rewarding ourselves and reaffirming to ourselves when we do a positive trade, what did you do? You acted on the trade. What was positive about the trade? It was planned, you acted on it, and the plan came together. And you need to embellish on that just a little bit. You need to, you know, write it down. You need to reaffirm to yourself that these are the kind of things that you want to continue to do. So in any event, I thought that'd be a good way to start the week off. In addition, reports this week already, we've had our Fed activity index at 8:30 this morning. Every time's in our report, my work, because I'm in Florida, is Eastern Standard Time. So this room is all pretty much quoted in Eastern Standard Time, unless otherwise noted. Leading indicators come out at 10 a.m. These are the reports for the week that come out. And as you can see, nothing really stands out of any major significance. We have a 2-year note auction that should be at, you guys can just copy 1 p.m. It comes out at 1 p.m. and then just paste it there. It comes out at 1 p.m. On Tuesday. I might change this for tomorrow's document, so you might not have to do that anyway. Earnings this week, oh my Lord, you name it, it's pretty much coming out. This morning, I mean, Crocs is, I don't know if you guys remember the little rubber shoes with the holes in them. FBNC, Halliburton, Hasbro, LSI, Netflix will be the big one that's coming out. And interesting, we're going to talk about Netflix in just a minute. Wynn from Las Vegas, Zion Bank, which is a regional bank, and of course Rambus, Random Access Memory. Rambus was a big hot stock, and one I always used to like to play because it had a wild swings trading between $4 to $6 and, you know, up to $20 to $40. And Rambus has been kind of a wild mover over the years, the decade. I mean, 14 years now. AK Steel tomorrow, AT&T. I know it's T and it's in alphabetical order, but it's AT&T, so I don't know, 10 to one or the other. Comcast, Gilead Sciences, a lot of Juniper Network, McDonald's, some big names coming out. UTX is United Technologies, another Dow component stock. Yum Brands, Wednesday. Apple will be obviously the one that everyone's looking at. Boeing, Ingersoll Rand, O'Reilly Automotive, the list goes just on and on and on. Texas Instruments, and I'm sure Ryder Industry, Qualcomm. So you're going to get Qualcomm and Apple both out the same day. Thursday is so many stocks to list. It's just going to be, I mean, you're going to feel like a punching bag, really, one after another, from JetBlue, Deckers Outdoor, Diamond Offshore Drilling, I mean, Broadcom. I mean, if there's something here, and I think that's the neat thing, HZO, the reason I even list some of these smaller cap stock, this is MarineMax. They're the sellers of, they sell sports equipment, and not just sports equipment, but boats. I mean, so what's the second most consumer discretionary product? You're going to go buy a Wave Runner for the summer. You're going to buy a new Sea Ray, MarineMax owns Sea Ray. So these are the companies that you want to. Leggett & Platt, LEG, interesting as I put that up there. Leggett & Platt is not, most of these stocks, as you can see, a lot of them are not S&P 500. I put up these stocks for earnings that I think are important that are in specific sectors as well. So you can go through these names if you'd like. I think it's important to take a look at what some of these companies do. So it's important to not just look at like hot as Starwood Hotels. And, you know, Starwood Hotels has medium to a high-end hotels around the world. You know, in major cities from Paris to, of course, Rome, Florence, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so Thursday is a heck of a day for earnings, including UPS, Visa, and the list just keeps going. And then Friday, just when you think you're done, Friday you have FLIR, Whirlpool, AEP, which is American Electric Power. I believe that is our utility stock. And these are our, you know, we still have our seasonal strong sector, USO, which is energy, crude oil, and that energy sector has been extremely strong this month. I wanted to highlight UNG because UNG just popped into a weekly buy. We want to talk about natural gas in just a minute as well. So these are some of the still seasonal strong sectors, and remember at the beginning these are for April. Weak sectors, drug, IBB, which is biotech's been that way. Corn and wheat actually doesn't look like it's been weak, but it hasn't advanced. It's actually gone down. So this year, these two commodities have actually been weak, and the dollar index, which has been weak so far this month. So we're actually, if you notice, today's the 21st, and it seems like the month just started, and now we're beginning the third week of the month, and so which means in less than 2 weeks or 2 weeks or so, we're going to do what? We're going to have a new monthly outlook. So planning and scanning at the beginning of the month for the new seasonal outlooks will be important. The looking at ahead at the stock market this week, it's not even, it's less than 2 weeks, by the way. It's going to be one of these middle of the week type of things. April ends on a Wednesday this month, so Thursday, that Wednesday night, it's not even going to be, we're going to have to do something, maybe a special webinar for Thursday for entering in the seasonal strong weakness. Maybe we'll think about that. You guys, if you're interested, we can do something to that effect. All right, so weekly signals. We had a few high closed dojis, and if you see the asterisks, right, that means that they have earnings this week, by the way. Janus is a fund management. Stock market goes up or they're doing well. Guess what happens? They typically do well in a active stock market or financial environment. And, you know, while the indexes are, some of them are posed or pressed closer to their highs for the year, and others aren't. You take a look at a lot of names for some of the stocks we go through, and you'll find out that, man, some of these stocks, you know, and I'm going to show you a few this week that gave daily signals and weekly buy signals were at multi-year highs. I mean, that's a tough one, and it does not go within our criteria of a high closed doji. And also with low closed doji, IBM already had earnings, and I found it interesting to note that it had a weekly low closed doji on IBM, which means it probably could be in a pause for the time being, meaning it won't really see much advancement to the upside. I'm a little mixed on IBM because I like the sector it's in. So that's where stock picking and utilizing certain tools that we try to train everyone here with is important to kind of pick the right stock. And if you think you're in a stock that's in a strong sector, it might not go up, but it might not go down a whole lot. So that might be a consideration on any rally for credit call spread for the next few weeks. Anyway, so that's how I view that. Newmont Mining has earnings this week. ZMH, I forgot what it is, Zimmerman Holdings, I think it is. And of course, for daily signals, Apple generated a daily high closed doji, as did Netflix, and you probably could surmise that we have earnings. And I didn't have a single low closed doji from Thursday's trade action. So with that said, I did the weekend video, and if you uploaded it for newsletter subscribers, then you should download your pages, and just you'll see something we'll probably talk about later in the week in this room anyway, and that's the knob spread once again. Also, I just refreshed because we were looking at copper for many weeks now, and it's interesting to note that I've had this. I just erased it this morning because there was an arrow pointed, and I think it's obvious it's the last conditional change. The market is yet to be able to break out above this daily last conditional change candle. But think of all the selling pressure that's been at near 308 area. At that 308 or 307 change, or 308 exactly high, it's just had a lot of, it hasn't had any ability to get up through that number. Looking at a weekly chart on copper, it also, not as a daily last conditional change, you'll note that it is a weekly last conditional change. We did have a weekly 3-candle pattern. Most of you would identify this as an evening 3-candle morning doji star formation, excuse me. It just hasn't had, after 1 or 2 time periods, you don't see any follow-through, LMO, RFN. And the concern that I now have is that we had a high close doji followed by no follow-through to the upside, inability to get through this 307.90, 308 area, and we followed last week with another doji. Volume's not giving me any clues, and then we have a seasonal downturn now. So the seasonal upturn was only good for this little pop to the upside, and it needs to break 308. If it can break 308, then I think we can still watch that. But I kept that up on our daily sheets, our daily page on the newsletter. This is natural gas, and natural gas does enter a seasonally strong period of time. The only problem is, look at and I think it's just like one of those commodities like gold. The public will never get short this thing yet until they're convinced that it can't go any higher. But the fact is that it's at 475, and I think a move back down, because we did generate a daily buy signal. We also generated a weekly buy signal in natural gas on some pretty good volume. So the general public might have this one right, except for the fact that I think that if you did pull back, I mean, think of the concepts with natural gas, which is a very pricey commodity, very high risk, high velocity mover. Every point is $100, and every 100 points is 10,000. So from 3 to 4 is $10,000. It's a big mover on the big contract. But I think, so if you think about it, in essence, if we look bullish and the public is long this market, what would happen if you pulled back down into the moving averages here? I mean, that's a $2,000, a 4% move is $2,000. It's a small little move. You still are making weekly higher lows, and you're down back into the pocket. So 452 or so, I think, is an area of I would be looking for, still above last week's lows, and it would still be in the concept of making higher lows. So this week, if we do get for those that are interested, it formed a daily high close doji, so you might get a little bit of follow through, some sell-off later in the week sometime. So if we got into that, just looking at natural gas at 452, let's call it, right? And 452 on the daily charts is more or less, let's just call it right here, still 451. I'll edit this so it reads correctly. So here's 452. I mean, if you did see the market come back down, it might, over the next day or two, that might freak people out. So, or stop somebody out, or get some weak longs out of the trade. So we want to watch maybe sometime this week 452 for natural gas for those that are interested in trading that. So the next one I wanted to briefly cover here is the euro currency, because I'm not sure if we're going to have a breakout above the doji high or the swing high we made on April 11th. We could see from a seasonal tendency, the market tends to push up towards this week. The small speculator is still short this market. The longer term or intermediate term trend, as you can see, as I've got an arrow already posted here, is is up. So, you know, the path of least resistance for this market could be up, especially with the small specs short the market in a seasonally strong period of time. So if I can just point out to you, if we break last week's low, though, which is 137.87, we have a shot of maybe, you know, seeing some of the hedge funds who are long the market. Again, they are speculators as well. So there's two ways to watch it. Look for breakouts above this 139 area or breakdowns below 137.87. You know, if you placed a buy stop above this level and a sell stop below that level, the problem is one becomes your entry and one becomes your risk factor, just as an emergency kind of thing. You know, it becomes a $1,500 risk factor. So I think it's just best to, you know, if you wish, just set alerts for that, and we'll be watching the euro currency for this week. All right, now let's move on to our indexes and see what did last week's move provide. And, you know, does this stock market have resiliency? And the fact is that on a weekly basis, the New York Stock Exchange Composite Index, the NYSE, actually popped into a weekly buy and did generate, if you take a look at with me here real closely, on a weekly basis in the cash market on the NYSE, the close on week ending March 7th, right here, was 105.11. Last week's close was 105.32. The prior week's close, as you see, was 105.17. That's right. We made an all-time new high close in the NYSE, New York Stock Exchange Composite Index, with a new high breakout in the advanced decline on a weekly basis. The only thing that didn't happen is we didn't see a new volume high, which, you know, it really, to me, that's okay because it was close enough. It was close enough to the prior high. Because we didn't take out the high by a whole lot. But the fact is, you just made a new weekly closing high in a market with a new, fresh weekly buy signal on the NYSE. I think, as we can say, the NASDAQ, which has had maybe an overweight of extreme buying, selling pressure due to the overweight value of the biotech sector, as well as some other stocks, have, you know, I guess everyone's calling them the momentum stocks, and you know, the social media stuff, you know, the Twitters, the LinkedIns, and things of that nature, and stocks that really don't provide a whole lot of service. Facebook, for example, came off their high. I mean, those are, I don't know, they don't make a tire, they don't make a digit, they don't provide, you know, a form of, I guess, entertainment is at best you could say. Yelp, I mean, how many Googles and Bingos and Zyngas and, you know, bazookas, and I'm sorry, I'm making fun of something I shouldn't, but, you know, there's just so many of these internet stocks out there that they were just overdone. At this point in time, it's just I'm just looking at the tools that I have to work with, and that say, gee, even last week's advanced decline on the S&P 500 popped into a new high. It didn't have a lot of volume behind it, but we preceded new highs in the advanced decline in the S&Ps. I don't know, whatever school someone says that this thing's going to go down, you know, it would probably be best if it was to go down, that it went down with a majority of the stocks on a decline. When you have a breakout in the advanced decline, as we've been talking about all year for the last 2 years, for many years, that when you have when a breakout precedes, you know, the advanced decline has a new high breakout, price proceeds, you know, it follows suit. So to me, it's not a very bearish scenario in the intermediate term, in the next week or two. So that doesn't mean we can't see a pullback over the next day or so, and perhaps, you know, you get it to suck in some bears, because there were a lot of people who thought that last week's rally came on light volume. So let's look at the NASDAQ, and as we've been talking in you know, our old annotations here, we came near an old low, okay? Advanced decline, even on the NASDAQ. I mean, think about it. Here's a level that we were at with an old high. We're pretty darn close if you think about it. The advanced decline is not far off from its highs of March, but price is significantly from a percentage perspective. If you take a look from, we're down 5% in price, And if I took a, from advanced decline, you're down 1%. So 1% off the high in the advanced decline reading versus 5% off the weighted, capitalized weighted index price. Why is that? Because there's a lot of stocks that are heavily weighted towards the NASDAQ 100, like the biotech sector that has weighed on this market, and other names that have had a negative effect on the NASDAQ 100. So with that said, last week's little move, if you notice here, we had a very light upside move. I'm sure you would agree with that. I mean, it was a kind of a light move. It took 2 days to go down. It took 1, 2, 3, 4 days, and we barely went up. But look what we did in volume, and look what we did with the advanced decline. Advanced decline made a new high, okay? Price didn't, number one. But the on-balance volume, so those looking at volume histogram bars might not be getting the true story. So here we have, upside in the on-balance volume reading that did make a new breakout high. And last week it was interesting because if you were in the room with us last week, we took some buy day trades to the upside last week, right? We did an S&P, did a breakout in the Russell. So, while we granted had a daily sell signal, we were making money on the long side of the market, and as you can see, the long side of the market was the right side of the market to be on in last week's trade. So, we might see a little correction. I think we get up here, maybe, some early resistance in the S&Ps. We're having a hard time struggling through, and again, we're going to continuously struggle with the market above this. We have a last conditional change to still contend with that is like a magical number, and it's just been in existence since back over here, and would just draw that line in the sand, so to speak. So, around 1869 is just every time the market gets through, they had one breakout, stayed up there, and then acted as resistance again. So, the first kind of test up in here today, it might offer some type of retracement. I think, the strength of the market, could we get a pullback into maybe perhaps this level here into the 1840s? And I'd have to say, yeah. And if we do, that would entice a lot of people to be extremely, I think the bears will be hollering and hooting. And I mean, if you got people to generate some shorts up at this level, where do you think their stops are going to be? Probably above there. So if this week, what I think might happen is you may pause a little bit, maybe get some bad news, or someone says something, or a bad earning or something, and the market goes down a little bit. But I think if you get any early weakness in the marketplace, it's a buying opportunity. Cover all shorts. If we are short, especially in SDS or anything like that, it's time to just bail on it, and that's what I'll be looking at. All right. So that's my concept, and then I get bearish again. Okay, I get bearish again once we either get back underneath the monthly pivot support, 1831, because I have to look at several things here. The fact is, that's a high, that's a lower high, and now we're making a third potential lower high. So I have to say we are making, on every time the market made a new high, failed. Tried to rally, made a lower high. Broke down, made a retracement, but it's still a lower high. So if this market breaks down and breaks below the moving averages, breaks below the monthly support, then I got to say, hey, perhaps the bull side, we need to give that up, and then we'll see this maybe test way down here. But until we get, my personal belief is that these AD lines are just too strong. The volume was too strong, and as now I would like to show you in our planning and scanning pages real quick. So when we go over to, here you have low closed dojis. Not a single name popped up on the list. So these were dailies that we had from Thursday. Here were some of the names that as are on your list, and of course Netflix, which earnings came out, I believe, or maybe it's after the close. Let me double check on that in just a minute with you. what I wanted to point out to you was, let's look at the weekly high close dojis real quick. And we had 26 names in the weekly high close doji. So let's take a look at the monthly chart. So I'm looking for weekly high close dojis. Well, the funny thing is, I'm looking for weekly high close dojis. Fine, but here's a monthly chart, and that's just the first name. Here's Baker Hughes. Here's Clorox. I mean, these stocks, the Clorox looks like it's getting ready for trend consolidation, breakout. Consolidation, it looks like it's getting ready for another breakout. Consol Energy, newer high, I mean multi-year high. Chevron is now at 123. We have Dover, which I think in the industrial machinery might be a sector. There's, you know, it had a nice trend consolidation. It's got some overhead monthly resistance about $4 higher. DT Energy, new breakout high. FLIR Systems, AGL Resources, General Electric even, GE at multi-year highs. You're getting the drift here. Everything that I got is at multi-year highs. There's just really, I mean, it's, look at this. We've already talked about Northeast Utilities. We had that. We are probably already talked about A&B Property, breakout, multi-year highs. All of these stocks, here's another QCOM, multi-year high. The list just goes, I mean, the whole list. So it makes it kind of a difficult, you know, except for Tesoro, which, you know, has this huge consolidation. And if it breaks out, I mean, think about it, a multi-year consolidation. You have this multi-time frame consolidation. A lot of the stocks that I pointed out to you do have, you know, this kind of wedge formation that they start to break out. So Tesoro's one in the energy complex that looks good. And that's the opening bell. This is UTX. And just to wrap it up, even looking at all of the stocks that gave us weekly high close dojis are at or near all-time highs, which, you know, money begets chasing money, so to speak. So, you know, there is some healthy things out there. And this week with the earnings, the problem is we got to start maybe nailing down some stocks that look strong, perhaps, if you want to take some, you know, binary trades. What I call it is earnings are almost binary trades, because now you got to guess what is the direction up or down, and is the market going to exceed what's already priced in the game, and how do we profit from it? So, you know, if you do a butterfly, you may be wrong. If you go directional, you could be wrong. So it is a flip of a coin, more so than trading any other time. But if you're right, sometimes if we can catch one where the implied volatility is not outrageous compared to historic volatility, maybe we can get lucky with a trade or so this week in something like that. So for this week, obviously, looking at the trading room, we've covered a lot in our planning and scanning. I'm still looking at a healthy stock market, but we are winding down the seasonally strong time period. They say sell in May and go away, but no one ever said it was the 1st of May. So while we are still struggling with some market internal issues like lack of volume to the upside, lots of stocks at all-time highs, for example, I think that pullbacks would probably be bought in the market, and the seasonal strengths that we want to be looking for, there are some values still in the energy space, believe it or not, and one is in the natural gas capacity market, because UNG, as or natural gas, as we showed you, looks pretty good. So that concludes our time, and I hope today's session was worthwhile. We pretty much end right on the money here, and I appreciate everyone's attention, and I hope you find this information valuable. Thank you.